A single cup of coffee is brewing a billion-dollar battle between a Democratic Socialist mayor and a global corporate giant.
Yeah, because, well, this isn't just about coffee, right? It is a real-time collision between aggressive local taxation and, cold, hard corporate math.
Right now, we are watching a profound economic shift happen in real time. So let's jump straight into the hard facts. Washington state recently enacted a 9.9% income tax on households earning over $1 million. dollars.
Hmm.
And almost immediately, Seattle-born Starbucks announced a massive shift. They are investing $100 million to build a brand new regional headquarters down in Nashville, Tennessee.
Which is huge.
Right. They are moving 2,000 jobs out of Seattle. And these are not entry-level positions. We're talking corporate jobs with an average salary of $125,000.
Yeah, and at the exact same time, they're laying off hundreds more executives at their current Seattle headquarters.
All right.
Financial analysts estimate this single corporate move could drain up to $750 million in tax revenue from Washington over the next 2 decades.
Those numbers are they're staggering. We are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars shifting across the country, fundamentally changing the economic landscape of two major American cities.
It really is.
So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are looking at the mechanics behind progressive taxation and corporate migration. To help you understand how a city starts losing its flagship companies, we pulled a really deep stack of sources for you.
Yeah, we've got local Seattle news reports, national opinion pieces, financial data, and even some local Reddit debates.
Right, and we really need to look at all of it to get the full picture because the local street level perspective is radically different from the Wall Street perspective.
Completely different.
Now, since you are exploring this with us, we should point out up front that the sources you've given us contain some incredibly heated, politically charged rhetoric from both the left and the right. People on both sides of this are, deeply frustrated.
Oh, absolutely. The tension is palpable.
So I want to be clear, we are not taking a side today. We are not here to endorse a conservative or a progressive viewpoint. Our only goal is to impartially unpack the arguments from the sources, lift the hood on these policies, and just help you understand how this economic engine actually works.
Exactly. Because the mechanics themselves are fascinating. We are looking at a fundamental debate about how a city funds itself and, well, what happens when the people being taxed decide to push back?
So how did we get here? Let's start with the catalyst for this whole conflict. We have to talk about the new political reality in Seattle and the controversial tax policy that kind of lit the match.
Right, which centers around Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson. She took office in January 2026. She is 43 years old, a former transit activist, and a self-described Democratic Socialist.
Her background is so vital here because it really explains her entire playbook. She isn't a traditional politician who came up through, city council meetings and corporate boardrooms.
No, not at all. She actually dropped out of Oxford University, where she was studying physics and philosophy just 6 weeks before her finals.
Wait, dropping out of Oxford right before finals, that is quite the pivot. Where did she even go?
Well, she moved to Seattle in 2004, worked in boat repair for a bit, and eventually co-founded the Seattle Transit Riders Union. She spent years organizing protests, lobbying for reduced fares for low-income riders, and, demanding better public transit.
So her entire political identity is built on organizing the working class against entrenched corporate interests.
Exactly. She built her career on challenging the status quo.
And that brings us to the core progressive argument in our sources. Historically, Washington state does not have a personal income tax. Instead, they rely really heavily on sales taxes and property taxes to fund the government.
Right, and the mayor's camp argues that relying so heavily on sales tax puts the financial squeeze almost entirely on working-class residents.
Because, a sales tax takes a much larger bite out of a working family's paycheck than a millionaire's bank account, right?
Precisely. Mayor Wilson and her supporters argue that this system unfairly benefits mega corporations like Amazon and Microsoft, allowing them to basically operate in the city without contributing enough to the local infrastructure.
So to fix that perceived imbalance, Washington instituted this new millionaire tax. It is a 9.9% tax on households earning over $1 million a year. The stated goal is to force the wealthy to pay their fair share to fund affordable housing and social programs.
But historically, whenever a government introduces a new tax on high earners, you immediately get warnings from the business community about wealth flight.
Right.
Business advocates loudly argue that millionaires will not just sit there and pay up, they will simply pack up and move to a cheaper state.
And Mayor Wilson was incredibly blunt when reporters asked her about this exact threat. She publicly dismissed the idea of wealth flight. She said claims of an impending millionaire exodus were super overblown. She even told a crowd, and this is a direct quote regarding the millionaires who choose to leave, she said, "The ones that leave, like, bye."
Man, that single quote caused an absolute firestorm.
I bet.
It became a massive rallying cry for her supporters who loved the unapologetic tone. But it also became a major symbol of hostility for her critics in the business community.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. If you think of a city budget like a giant community crowdfunding campaign, Mayor Wilson is basically pointing out that the biggest backers aren't chipping in their fair share compared to everyone else. She is asking the people with the deepest pockets to step up.
Right.
But looking at the sources, is her rhetoric just political bluffing to fire up her base, or does this represent a genuine shift in economic philosophy?
What's fascinating here is that it is absolutely a genuine structural shift.
Yeah.
This isn't just a politician posturing for the cameras. If you look at her roots with the Transit Riders Union, she believes deeply in redistributing wealth to fund public services.
Because her base elected her exactly because she promises to challenge corporate power.
Yes, but this creates serious friction. She didn't just pass a tax. She actively targeted local businesses.
How so? Like, what did she do?
Well, before she even took office, she supported labor strikes against Starbucks. She joined a barista picket line and literally told the public, "I am not buying Starbucks, and you should not too."
Wait, I need to pause on that. A mayor-elect standing on a street corner telling her own citizens to boycott one of the city's largest taxpayers and employers.
Yep.
That is an astonishing thing for a city executive to do.
It sets up this really critical tension. You have a local government that desperately relies on local employers for tax revenue, while the leader of that government is simultaneously calling for boycotts against them. And that tension is exactly why we are seeing such a dramatic reaction from the corporate side.
Which brings us directly to the Starbucks exodus. Because Starbucks did not just issue an angry press release, they opened their checkbook and started packing.
They really did.
They announced a $100 million investment to build a regional headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee, moving 2,000 jobs there. And while they are doing that, they are laying off hundreds of corporate employees right in Seattle.
And the specifics of those layoffs really tell a story here. According to state filings, these aren't entry-level cafe jobs. We are talking about 252 corporate employees at the Seattle Support Center, vice presidents, directors, senior managers across finance, legal, tech. Plus, they previously eliminated 61 other tech roles.
So they're slashing high-paying leadership jobs in Seattle and creating thousands of new ones in Nashville. Let's look at the financial math getting this. Tennessee has no state income tax.
Right.
Financial analysts report that Starbucks will save $12,000 per employee per year in taxes just by moving them to Nashville.
Let's actually do that math. $12,000 multiplied by 2,000 employees. That is $24 million in savings every single year. Plus, the state of Tennessee gave Starbucks a $30 million fast-track grant as a signing bonus to incentivize the move.
Okay, let me stop you there. A $30 million grant is a huge sweetener, obviously.
Yeah.
But how is the ongoing tax difference that steep? I mean, $12,000 per person is a colossal gap. Is the 9.9% millionaire tax really doing all that damage on its own?
That's a great question. The millionaire tax is a big piece of the puzzle. But the real structural issue for businesses in Washington is the gross receipts tax.
Okay, explain how that actually hits a company's bottom line compared to, like, a normal corporate tax.
So a standard corporate tax is based on profit. If a company makes $1 billion, but they spend $1 billion running the business and paying employees, their profit is zero. So their tax bill is minimal.
Makes sense.
But a gross receipts tax, which Washington uses, taxes the total money brought in, regardless of your expenses.
Oh, wow. So it's like a toll booth on the highway that charges you based on the sheer size of your truck, even if your trailer is completely empty and you are actually losing money on the delivery?
Exactly. Even if Starbucks takes a financial loss launching a new initiative, Washington still taxes the gross revenue of that project. Combine the gross receipts tax with the new 9.9% tax hitting executive compensation, and the state just becomes incredibly expensive for a large corporation.
There is another detail in the sources I want to bring up. Tennessee is a right-to-work state. What does that actually mean in this context?
A right-to-work law basically means that Employees cannot be forced to join a labor union or pay union dues as a condition of their employment.
Which is a crucial detail for Starbucks right now, considering the massive unionization push they're facing nationwide. Moving thousands of jobs to a state where union power is legally diluted has to be incredibly appealing to the corporate board.
Precisely. So structurally, the financial spreadsheet heavily favors Tennessee. But, the public messaging around this move is deeply divided. Current Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol claims this is purely a strategic business move.
Right, he says it is about growth in the Southeast and setting the company up for its next chapter.
But then you read the opinion piece from former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz in the Wall Street Journal, and the tone is completely different.
Yeah, that op-ed was aggressive.
Very. Schultz declared that Seattle has turned into a hostile environment for the great businesses it helped create. He directly blamed Mayor Wilson, saying her socialist rhetoric vilifies employers.
And Schultz backed up his words with actions. I mean, he moved his own primary residence out of Seattle and relocated to Florida, which is another state with no personal income tax.
Exactly.
So I have to challenge the corporate PR here. Are they actually fleeing the hostile political climate, or are they just following the cold math on a spreadsheet?
It's both, really. The math is the engine, but the political climate acts as the ultimate accelerator. The spreadsheet makes the move viable, but the rhetoric makes it urgent.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Look at the stark contrast.
Yeah.
You have the mayor of Seattle standing on a picket line, urging a boycott of your products. Then you look at Tennessee Governor Bill Lee. He held a press conference basically rolling out the red carpet for Starbucks,
Yeah.
publicly praising his state's business-friendly environment.
Yeah.
When the math points south and the politicians up north are openly telling you bye, the decision becomes very easy for a corporate board.
That makes total sense. They are taking the path of least resistance and the path with the best profit margin. But Starbucks protecting its margins is one thing. A city budget doesn't just lose coffee jobs, it loses the entire ecosystem around them. Let's look at the street-level impact for Washington.
The wider economic statistics for Washington paint a really challenging picture. Over the last decade, Washington state's ranking as a favorable place to do business has plummeted. They dropped from 6th in the nation all the way down to 45th.
Wait, how does a state drop 39 spots in a single decade? That is a free fall.
It is the compounding effect of regulatory creep, rising operational costs, and the implementation of these aggressive new taxes. And the impact is highly visible on the streets. Right now, downtown Seattle is facing a commercial vacancy rate exceeding 35%.
So offices are just sitting completely empty.
Empty. And then you add the Starbucks move. Analysts estimate that Starbucks moving those 2,000 jobs to Tennessee could drain up to $750 million in tax revenue from Washington over the next 20 years.
Hold on, I really need to push back on that number.
Yeah.
$750 million lost just from 2,000 people moving? That math feels wild. How are financial analysts calculating a hit that severe?
It's because of the economic multiplier effect. When 2,000 employees making $125,000 a year leave a city, they take much more than just their income tax with them.
What else do they take?
Well, they stop buying lunches at local downtown restaurants. They stop paying property taxes on expensive Seattle homes. They stop hiring local plumbers, electricians, contractors. The small businesses that relied on those corporate workers suddenly see a severe drop in their own gross receipts.
Which means the city collects less tax from them, too.
Exactly. It creates a compounding loss that ripples through the entire regional economy.
Which totally explains why we are seeing intense internal political pushback against the mayor's approach. It isn't just corporate CEOs complaining. Seattle City Council member Rob Saka, whose district includes the neighborhoods where many of these executives actually live, went on the record expressing grave concern.
Right.
He urged the city government not to dismiss or trivialize business concerns during a period of such rapid job loss.
Because Saka recognizes the danger of a shrinking tax base. If too many anchor tenants leave, the tax burden falls even harder on the small businesses and regular citizens that remain.
And this exact tension has sparked a fierce debate among those regular citizens, too. We looked through local Reddit forums, and the public reaction is completely split down the middle.
Oh, absolutely divided.
On one side, you have people cheering the millionaire tax as long overdue justice. One user defended the policy, saying, "Soak the rich." That's a funny way of saying pay their fair share. Another user actively celebrated the departure of the executives, joking about them soaking in their millionaire tears.
But on the other side of that same exact forum, you see residents terrified of the economic fallout. One user bluntly stated the paradox. They wrote, If you intend to spend on social services, you should not try and shrink your tax base.
So what does this all mean for you, the everyday taxpayer? It's kind of like throwing a massive neighborhood block party to feed the hungry, but you accidentally scare off the people who are paying for the catering. You might feel morally victorious, but suddenly you don't have the money to actually buy the food.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that block party analogy perfectly captures the core paradox raised by critics of municipal progressive taxation. You cannot fund expansive social services if you actively shrink your own revenue streams.
Right.
And those Reddit arguments perfectly mirror a growing national debate. We are seeing this clash play out across the country. It is a live stress test over whether aggressive taxation is unintentionally driving an exodus of corporate capital from blue states to red states.
The sources certainly suggest that capital is mobile, and, well, it is moving. We have a Democratic socialist mayor passing steep taxes on the wealthy to fund vital services, openly daring disgruntled millionaires to leave. We have a multi-billion-dollar corporation deciding to pack up 2,000 high-paying jobs and move to a tax-friendly, right-to-work state. And we have a city left to deal with empty office buildings and a potential $750 million hole in their future budget.
It really forces us to examine cause and effect here.
Yeah.
Are these progressive policies effectively redistributing wealth to fix the city, or are they accidentally dismantling the very economic engine that makes the city run in the first place?
That is the big question. We have covered a lot of ground today. We examined the push for a 9.9% millionaire tax designed to create a more equitable Seattle. We broke down the mechanics of the massive corporate reaction from Starbucks, shifting $100 million to Tennessee to escape the gross receipts tax. And we explored the economic multiplier effect that is threatening to drain hundreds of millions of dollars from Seattle's economy.
And as we wrap up, there is a final, lingering question we should all consider based on these sources. As major cities attempt to tax their way to better social services, what happens to the cultural identity of a city when its founding corporations, the very brands that put it on the global map, decide the price of admission is simply too high?
Wow, yeah.
Will cities like Seattle evolve into more equitable communities, or will they just end up with empty downtowns and great public transit?
It really makes you wonder. That single cup of coffee really did brew a conflict that could change the face of an entire city forever. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep looking at the numbers, and we will catch you next time.